Good day everyone. Now we're going to tackle the prevalence of mood disorders. When we say mood disorder, this is a very common in a mental health condition that studies help us to understand how many people are affected by them in their lifetime or a given year. So we have first major depressive disorder. So it is a common mood disorder. Around 16% of people experience it in their lifetime or 6% in a year. So ito ay isang uri na mood disorder na kung saan na sobrang lungkot ng isang tao, kawalan interest na nararamdaman nila na tumatagal ng isang linggo or buwan. Madalas ito ay nakakaapekto sa pag-aaral, sa trabaho at sa relasyon. So ayon sa study na 16% ang lifetime prevalence na nito at halos 6% nakaraang taon. So, ang isang halimbawa nito, kung isang estudyante ay dati masigla at aktibo sa klase, pero bigla siyang nawalan ng gana sa lahat ng bagay, hindi na siya sumasali or palaging malungkot at wala siyang gana pumasok or hindi na siya pumapasok, ito ay maaaring halimbawa na isang major depressive disorder. Next is persistent depressive disorder or dysthymia. So, it is a long-lasting type of depression. About 3.5% of the people experience it both yearly and in their lifetime. So, ito yung isang uri na matagal na depression. Ito yung kasing lala sa major depressive disorder. Pero, mas matagal siya minsan taon or buong buhay ng tao. So, ayon din sa datos na nagkakaroon, merong 3.5 na populasyon na nakaranas ito at pareho bilang lifetime na siya. So, isang halimbawa nito ay kung may isang empleyado na araw-araw pumasok sa trabaho pero palaging mabigat ang pakiramdam niya or wala sigla or laging malungkot, hindi ito nawawala kahit maraming taon nagdaan. Ito ay maaring tinatawag na dysthymia. Next is the bipolar disorder. So, it includes the mood swing between high or low. About 1% of people experience this in their lifetime and 0.8% in a year. So, ito yung kung saan yung mga tao nakaranas sa sobrang taas ng mood or mania at sobrang baba ng mood, depression. So, ayon sa datos na sinabi dyan na 1% ay nakaranas ito buong buhay at 0.8 naman ay sa isang taon. So, pantay. Ayon din sa pag-research ko na mas madalas ang mga babae o kababaihan na mas mabilis ang magpagbago-bago mood o nagkakaroon ng anxiety. So, isang halimbawa nito kapag ang babae minsan sobrang saya, tapos aktibo, tapos halos walang pahingat at puro plano ang ginagawa, pero pagkalipas ng ilang linggo bigla naman siya hindi bumabangon sa kama at sobrang lungkot. So ito yung isa symptoms ng bipolar disorder. Next, we have the gender difference. So women are twice as likely as men to experience depression and dysthymia, but bipolar disorder affects men and women equally. That women often face more rapid changes in the mood. So, as I said before, so based sa pag-aaral nito na mas mataas yung tiyanta ng mga babae na magkaroon ng depression at saka dysthymia kumpara sa kalalakihan. Sa kadahilan ay kombinasyon ito ng hormones at pressure mula sa mga lipunan. Pero ang sa bipolar naman, halos pareho sa tansya ng babae at lalaki. So, mas madalas makaranas pa rin ang kababaihan sa rapid cycling at mas matagal ang depressive phase. So, isang halimbawa nito ay isang working mom, kunyari, ang dumodobleng responsibility, trabaho, bahay at pag-alaga ng anak. So, dahil dito, mas malaki ang chance niya na magkaroon siya ng depression kumpara sa kanyang asawa na mas konti lang yung role niya. Next is ethnic difference. So, depression is less common among black individuals compared to white individuals. Native Americans show higher rates, but the culture difference may affect how depression is understood. So, dito naman sa ethnic difference, hindi rin kapare-pareho mga prevalence sa mood disorder, depende sa lahi o kultura. So, isang halimbawa naman ito ay mas mababa yung depression sa mga Black American, na sinabi dyan kaysa sa White American. Pero mas mataas naman sa Native American. So, isa sa mga dahilanan nito ay sa yung kultura at yung komunidad, yung environment din, na hindi agad kinikilala yung sintomas bilang depression kaya mas mababa na naiulat. So halimbawa nito is yung isang komunidad na Native American. So mas bukas sila sa pag-usap tungkol sa kalungkutan or sadness, mga ganon. Open sila. Kaya mas mataas ang naitatala. Samantala naman sa ibang sa community na mas tinatago nilang ganitong pakiramdam. Kaya mas mababa ang bilang ng mga kaso doon. Next is the treatment gap. Many people with mood disorder do not get proper treatment. For example, only about 11% of African Americans with depression seek help with the professional. So, dito naman mas malaki, isa pang malaking problema ay yung treatment gap, kasi kahit maraming may mood disorder, ilan pa rin ang humingi ng tulong. So, halimbawa sa studies na ilang percent ang African American na may depression ay lumalapit sa isang mental health profession. Isa sa dahilan ay stigma or hiya, takot at husgano, kaya karamihan ang natitiling walang gamutan at lumalala ang kondisyon. So halimbawa nito ay isang estudyante, matagal na yung depressed niya pero hindi siya lumalapit sa guidance counselor dahil natatakot siya na baka matawag siyang mahina or sabihin natin na may problema sa pag-iisip. So dahil dito lumala yung kanyang sitwasyon. Next, we have prevalence in children, adolescents, and older adults. So we have children aged 2 to 12. Major depression is rare among these young children, with only 1.5 experience it between 2 to 5. However, many children, around 20% to 50%, still show depressive symptoms that are not severe enough fully diagnosis but still affect their daily life, so such as school performance, play, and relationships. So accord sa sinabi na ang mga bata is hindi naman common sa kanila yung mga depreso. Only na isa or dalawa lang out sa 100 na children na nag-age ng 2 to 5 na nagkakaroon ng nagkaroon ng depreso. But many kids still feel sadness naman din talaga na nag-show sign as depression. So even if it's not strong enough to be called real disorder, itong sad feelings can still be affect their daily life. So for example, they can might make it harder for them to do well in school or like enjoying playing with other kids. So for example, if this si Mark, no, isang 7 years old na bata, he doesn't have major depression, but lately he feels sadness and wala siyang ka-enjoy maglaro sa kanyang mga kaibigan. So he also find it's hard to focus in his schoolwork. So even if it's not very serious case, yung sadness niya is nakakapekto pa rin siya sa studies niya tsaka sa playtime niya. Next is the adolescents or teenagers. So the rate of depression rise sharply in adolescence and becomes similar to the adult level. So before puberty, depression occurs equally among boys and girls. So after puberty, however, depression is more common in girls, that it influences their hormonal changes and higher social and emotional stress during teenage years. So when the children become teenagers, so the chances of having depression becomes much higher. So as it says, so for example, that Anna is 15 years old. So after entering high school, she started feeling a lot of pressure because of the schoolworks and from her friends. So sometimes she feels left out and she worries too much about how others see her because of this stress, and her body changes during puberty, and Anna often feels sad and tired, which shows about the signs of depression. In older adults, so 65 years old and above, so among older adults, our prevalence major depression is about half of the general population. So this may be because of stressful life events that often trigger depression, so it decreases with age. So still, mild depressive symptoms are more frequently in older adults and are often associated with illness, physical weakness, or the loss of independence. So here is about people who are 65 and above have lower chance of having major depression because of compared to the general population. This might be because they usually face yung mga stress event nila habang tumatanda sila, pero kahit ganyan pa man, marami pa rin sa mga adult na tawag na older adult na still showing mild signs of depression. So these lighter symptoms often came from the health problems, feeling weak or losing their independence for Example, when they cannot longer do daily tasks on their own. Next, bipolar disorder across all age. So bipolar disorder occurs at about the same rate across all age groups, affecting around 1% of the children, adolescents, and adults in the recent years. So diagnosis among children have increased due to the broadening of the criteria that include conditions such as disruptive mood regulation disorder, regardless of the age. Bipolar disorder is a serious and chronic condition. So bipolar disorder, it happens about same rate as in all age groups, no, out of 100 people, one out of the 100 people. So whether they are children, teenager, or adult, in recent years, karamihan sa mga bata ay na-diagnose na may bipolar disorder. Dahil dito ay yung mga doktor ay nag-include na sila ng panibagong kondisyon. Ito yung tinatawag ng disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. So under the same sa category. So no matter what age of the person is, bipolar disorder, ito ay seryoso na kaso na kondisyon na naglala siya ng matagalan. So example nito is si Ben. So 16 years old siya. Sometimes he feel energetic and talks a lot and barely sleeps for a day. So but other times he feels very sad or tired and doesn't want to do anything. So these changes between extreme high and low show what bipolar disorder can look like. Even though it's more known in the adults, so it can also happen in the kids and teenager like Ben. Next, we have age-based influence on depression in older adults. So we have prevalence in elderly. So depression among older adults has only recently been given close attention. So studies show that between 14% and 42% of nursing home residents experience major depressive episode. A long-term study found that about 80% of older adults with depression did not fully recover, and many continue to struggle with recurring symptoms. So, ang depression sa mga matatanda or adults has recently studied closely. So, research na nagpapakita na yung mga elderly na sa mga nursing home na nagsuffer sa depression is mga around 14%. So, to as high sa 42%. So, sa isang study, mayroong isang adult na may depression na may nag-i-observe for several how many years. So, about 80% sa kanila ay hindi naging fully or gumaling talaga. So, instead, they continue to feel depressed. So, from time to time, by showing the depression in old age. So, it can be long-lasting. So, mahirap siya i-treat. So, for example of this, so, halimbawa si Tatay Jose, 75 years old siya, tapos nakatira siya sa nursing home. So, lagi siya nakaka-feel na lonely at saka sad. So, even though when there are activities around him, over the years, yung sadness niya, hindi talaga hindi talaga permanent umalis. So, sometimes, okay siya, konti, pero bumabalik pa rin yung nafe-feel niya ng sadness. No? So, this show how depression in the elderly can stay for a long time and affects it for day-to-day life sa kanila. Next, we have characteristics and challenges in diagnosis. So, late onset depression in older adults is often linked to the sleep problems or illness or anxiety. So, this diagnosis can be difficult because the symptom of depression may develop with a physical illness or dementia, leading to underdiagnosis or misdiagnosed. So, up to 50% of Alzheimer's patients also experience depression, which increases burden on the family. So, when the depression starts later in the life, it often comes with a problem with life, difficulty of sleeping, constant worrying about their health, and restlessness. So it can be hard for doctors to diagnose this kind of depression in older adults. So because the symptoms can look similar sa physical sickness or yung dementia. So sometimes causes depression to be missed or mistaken for another illness. So one of the examples is Lola Carmen. So she is 72 years old. She has trouble sleeping and worries every day that she might be sick, or even when the doctors say she is fine. So at first, yung pamilya niya thought there were just signs of aging, but later on she was showing symptoms of depression. So her condition was harder to the spot because she was starting forgetting things, which it may look like a dementia. So this shows how diagnosing depression in older adults can be very challenging. Next is comorbidity with other disorders. So depression in older adults frequently occurs alongside anxiety disorders such as generalized anxiety disorder and panic disorder. So when this happens, depression tends to be more severe. About 1/3 of elderly patients with depression also struggle with alcohol abuse, adding to the challenges of the treatment. So one of the examples, this is about Mang Pedro. So he is 68 years old, so he feels sad most of the days and worries a lot, and often imagining bad things might happen for him even when there is no clear reason. So to cope with these feelings, he sometimes drink alcohol, but this only makes his problem worse. So his depression feel heavier because it is mixed with anxiety and drinking issues. So by showing how comorbidity makes treatment harder. Next, we have biological and life event factors. So for women entering the menopause can be raised the chance of having depression. So even if they were never depressed before, this is kasi dahil sa pag-change ng katawan nila, uncomfortable physical symptoms, and the stress life events. So in general, ang depression in older adults can make physical illness worse. So studies show that when elderly person is depressed, their recovery from serious sickness like heart attack or stroke becomes harder, and the risk of the death can be double. So for example of this situation is Aling Rosa is 55 years old kunyari, and just entered the menopause. So she never had depression before, but now she feels sad or tired or easily upset. At the same time, she also has health problems like high blood pressure. So because of her depression, her illness feels more heavier and harder to recover from. So this shows how both biological changes and life events can increase the risk of depression and worse health in older adults. Next is the social emotional risk factor. So in older adults there are more at risk of depression when they are loose in social and emotional support. So things like having a long-term illness or losing a husband or wife or taking care of their sick partner can all trigger sadness. So they can start cycle where poor health causes depression, and then depression make their health even worse. So sadly, suicide is the most common among the elderly compared to the other age group. Although the rates have gone down in recent years. So one of the example is this si Lola Adres. Now he is 74 years old. After his wife passed away, he began to feel very lonely. At the same time, he has a diabetes, so which make him more weaker. So because of this sadness, he lost the motivation to take care of his health, and this made his condition worse. So this show how health problems and loss of the support can combine to make depression stronger in older adults. Next is protective factors. Not all older adults with health problems become depressed. So optimism or having a positive outlook on life, so it helps them to protect. So research showed that elder people who stay hopeful after a serious illness like kagaya ng heart attack are most likely to fall into magkaroon silang depression, and often at sila yung nabubuhay ng matagalan. So this means that the staying positive na sa buhay natin and having strong social support can make older adults more resilient against the depression. So for example niyan, si Nanay Pilar, siya yung 69 years old. So she had a stroke, but instead of losing hope, she focused on her recovery and stayed cheerful with the help of her family. So because of this, her positive outlook, she avoid depression and continue live a happy life. So this show how optimism and support can protect older adults from the heavy effects of depression. Next, gender difference in later life. So when people are younger, women usually experience this depression more often than men. So after the age of 65, the gap between men and women becomes smaller. So this means that while women still face high risk of depression, more older men also start to struggle with it. So as the result, depression affects both gender more equally and in later life compared to the early life. For example, this is a senior community. So both Lola Maria and Lolo Juan, so who are dealing with depression. So Lola Maria has experienced sadness and depression for many years, and while Lola Juan who only began to struggle with it after turning 70. So this shows that in later life, both men and women can be affected by depression, making the difference between them is less noticeable. Next, we have across culture mood disorder. So we have cultural expression of depression. So depression does not always look at the same in every culture. So in some places, people don't say that they feel sad or lonely. So instead, they are talking about their yung pain nila sa katawan or like having a headache or stomach ache. So this how they show their emotion struggle. So some culture even have their own special words for depression. For example, a Hopi for people in the US. So they describe it as a feeling of heartbroken, while Australian Aboriginal men may see it as weakness of the spirit. This show that culture shape how people understand and explain their feelings. So one of the example is this, let's say about Pedro and Hero. So both they feel depressed. So pero si Pedro from the Philippines tells his family, masakit lang yung ulo ko at wala akong ganong kumain. Instead saying, I feel sad. Meanwhile, si Hiro naman nagaling sa Japan, he described his depression as heavily feeling in his chest. So even though they don't use our word depression, both are showing the same emotional pain but in a way that fits their culture. Next, we have influence of culture on how depression is understood. So how people understand and talk about depression, it depends on a lot of their culture. So in the countries that are more individualistic, like say sa United States, people focus on themselves. They might say, I feel blue or I am depressed. But in the collectivist culture like Asian countries like Philippines, so the group or family is more important. People may talk about the depression in terms of we instead of I. For example, they might say our life has long lost meaning, so or our family is suffering. So this show that culture can be changed, not only how depression feels but also how it's shared with others. So for one of her, for example, this si Anna. So si Anna is galing sa US, no? So she said na I am feel depressed because I lost my job. So she talked about herself. So meanwhile, kung si May from China says our family feels more broken because of my failure. So May use the word our because she thinks about her family as a part of struggle. So this show that the difference in how depression is understood across the culture. Next, we have among creative individuals. So we have historical observation. So for a very long time, so people have noticed that the mood disorder and creativity can be connected. So Benjamin Rush, who helped start American psychiatry, said that when people experience madness, they sometimes show amazing talents like in art, music, or leadership. So even the philosophy, Aristotle, from you can remember way back in senior high, from ancient Greece, believed that many great thinkers, poets, and leaders had a tendency to feel deep sadness or what was called melancholic. So this shows that society has long seen the link between emotional struggle and creativity ability. So for example, a famous painter might create beautiful and powerful art during times of his sadness. In history, many poets and writers, like admired by Aristotle, wrote their best work while struggling with melancholic feeling. This shows how emotional pain sometimes went hand in hand with a great achievement in art and philosophy. Next, research on poets and writers. So modern study confirmed that the people in the history noticed na yung mga many poets and writers struggle with the mood disorder, especially yung bipolar disorder. So in research shows that around 20% of the famous poets, including Pulitzer Prize winner, show signs of bipolar disorder. So this is much higher than 1% seen in the general population. So sadly, Many of these writers face serious outcomes, including yung suicide, and the female poet were found to be especially vulnerable. So, for example, of this is a well-known poet might write powerful poems full of deep emotion during his high and lows and bipolar disorder. So, while this working inspired many writers, the poet's emotional struggles sometimes become overwhelmed, leading to a tragic ending. So this shows that the double side of the creativity brings the beauty to the world while also carrying great personal pain. Now we have the creativity and mood state. So many artists and writers talk about these times now when they feel a rush of ideas and they can create a lot of short periods. So this usually happens during a manic episode in bipolar disorder. So when a person feels very energetic or inspired and connected to their thoughts, this moment can lead to amazing work of arts, stories, or music. So in the other hand, when the same person is depressed, they often lose motivation or they struggle to create. So this show that a high energy of mania can sometimes fuel the imagination and the productivity of this person. So while depression show it slow it down. So for example, for instance, like imagine that a painter no, who suddenly has so much energy that they stay awake all night to paint. Their creativity feels unstoppable. So they produce some of their best works during this time, but weeks later when depression sets in, they may feel too tired or hopeless to even pick up the brush. Next, we have genetic link between mood disorder and creativity. So, research believed that creativity may be linked to the same genes that increase the risk of the mood disorder like bipolar. So, it means that the traits that can make someone vulnerable to the mental illness may also give them the creative edge. So, even when the people with bipolar disorder are not in the manic or depressive state, they often perform better on creativity tests than people without disorder. So this suggests that the connection between mood disorder and creativity is not only about the mood swings, but may also come from the biology. So one of the examples of this is a poet with a bipolar disorder. It might still come up with the original and unique ideas, even their mood is stable. Their brain may be wired to think that is more unusual in creative ways compared to the average person. Next, we have the cause of mood disorder. So mood disorder do not came from just a one source. They usually happen because of the mixed different factors, like for example biological. So some people are more at the risk because of their genetics or genes or imbalance of their brain chemicals. So second, the psychologically, so certain personality traits like being very self-critical or not having healthy coping skills can increase the chance of developing a disorder. So environment also plays a big role. No? Stressful life events, trauma, or a lack of social support can trigger depression or bipolar disorder. So in addition, medical problems, hormonal changes, or sometimes abuse can make mood problems worse or even cause them. So for example, this is imagine a college student who already has a family history of depression in a biological way. If this student also struggles with negative thinking and finds it's harder handle stress psychologically and then faces the loss of the loved one or financial problem in the environmental way, these chances of developing a mood disorder become much higher. On the top of that, if they start drinking heavily or experience hormonal shift, the mood disorder may appear even more strongly. Next, we have familial and genetic influence. So mood disorder often run into the families because of the inherent traits passed down through genes. So this means that if a parent or brother or sister have depression or bipolar disorder, other family member have a higher chance also developing it compared to the people without any history. So however, having family member with a mood disorder does not guarantee you will get one too. So it only makes you more vulnerable. So research from the Twin and adoption studies show the strong evidence that genetic plays a big role, especially in the bipolar disorder. But it's not just about the genes. It is about environment and life experience also affect whether someone will actually develop the disorder. So one of the examples is this, for instance, imagine Anna's mother has a bipolar disorder. So because of the genetic, Anna has a higher risk of developing a same condition compared to her classmate whose family who have no history of mood disorder. So however, Anna might never develop bipolar disorder if she grows up in a supported environment and learns healthy coping skills. So on the other hand, if she faces a lot of stress or trauma or genetic risk, could combine the life experience and trigger the disorder. We have neurotransmitter system. So mood disorder are strongly connected to imbalance in brain chemicals called neurotransmitters. So three important ones, these are serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine. So when serotonin is too low, it makes another transmitter unstable, so which can lead the mood swings, the idea called of permissive hypothesis. So dopamine is also plays a big role in the both mania, high energy states, and depression, or we call a low energy state. So in addition, when person is under chronic stress, dopamine levels may drop, leading to more depressive symptoms. This show how the brain chemical balance affect emotion and mental health. So one of the examples is think of the neurotransmitter as a traffic light in the brain. So if serotonin is too low, it like may mean the traffic light stops working, and the other light like norepinephrine and dopamine start flashing randomly. So this causes confusion and emotional ups and downs. In mania, dopamine works like a green light stuck on, making energy and activity flows. So in depression, it's like the light stuck in red, slowing everything down and make the person feel tired, sad, and unmotivated. Next, we have the endocrine system. So recent research on the mood disorder has moved beyond just the brain chemicals and now looks how the bodies handle stress. So scientists focus on the HPA axis, a system in the body that controls stress hormone like cortisol. So when the cortisol levels stay high for a long time, as often seen in the depression and anxiety, it can hurt the hippocampus. So it is a part of the brain that helps with the memory and stress control. So high stress can also slow down the neurogenesis, so which is the growth of the new brain cells. So this makes people more vulnerable to the depression. That good news. The good news is that the treatment like medication, electroconvulsive therapy, and even the regular exercise can help restore the brain growth, giving the hope for recovery. So imagine, for example, imagine your brain has a stress thermostat. Normally, it turns off when the stress is gone, but in the depression, the thermostat is broken and the stress hormones like cortisol keep flowing in. Over time, this constant stress wears down the brain memory center, so it is called hippocampus. So it making harder to cope up. So it just like repairing a house. Treatments such as exercise or medication can help rebuild the brain and allow new brain cells to grow, helping the person to recover. Next, we have sleep and circadian rhythm. So sleep problems are very common in the people with mood disorder. For example, people with depression often go into a REM sleep. So it is called dream stage. So too quickly, and they don't get enough deep sleep, which is needed for the body and the brain to rest. People with bipolar disorder may have either extreme insomnia, trouble sleeping, or hypersomnia, so sleeping too much. So in older adults, having a long-term insomnia can increase the risk of depression. So sleep and mood affect each other. So poor sleep makes mood worse, and low mood makes sleep harder. The good news is that the helping patients fix their sleep problems can also improve the recovery from depression or bipolar disorder. So some treatment like sleep deprivation may show quickly benefits, but this effect usually don't last. So for one of the examples is think of sleep like a battery charger for the brain. So in someone with depression or bipolar disorder doesn't get enough deep sleep, so it like their phone and never full charge. So it works for a while, but it quickly shut down. Fixing a sleeping pattern like keeping a regular bedtime or using therapy or insomnia can help the brain recharge properly and lift the mood in the long run. Now, there is additional study of the brain structure and the function. So EEG studies show that the depressive individuals often have greater right-sided brain activity and reduced left-side activity, so linked to the fewer positive emotions. So this pattern may exist even before depression, so suggesting a biological vulnerability. In contrast, bipolar spectrum patient may show more left frontal activity, predicting risk bipolar disorder. So other brain areas like anterior cingulate cortex and amygdala also show abnormal activity in depression. So helping researcher understand how brain circuit influence the mood. So one of the examples is think of the brain like a music player with two speakers left and right. So in depression, the left speaker link it to a positive feeling. It's turned down low. So while the right speaker linked to the negative emotion is too loud. So this imbalance makes the music of emotion sound sad or stressful in the bipolar disorder. Sometimes the left speaker plays too strong, leading to bursts of high energy and mood. By studying these brain patterns, research can have a better understanding and they can treat mood disorder. And that's all. Thank you for listening.